Uranium pollution in Kazakhstan. The use of nuclear energy involves work with several very different industrial activities: mining, transportation, and reprocessing of uranium ore. Each of these activities has a specific hazard potential, which includes the dust in uranium mines, environmental pollution around the transportation path, and accumulation during the reprocessing procedure, and etc. The risk of radiation impact affects the staff working at nuclear facilities of people living nearby during normal operation or accidents. Kazakhstan has a uranium extraction and ore production industry consisting of uranium geological research agencies, several uranium mines, and facilities for the production of uranium oxide. In mining, the uranium and its decay products buried deep in the earth are brought to the surface, and the rock containing them is crushed into fine sand. After the uranium is chemically removed, the sand is stored in huge reservoirs. If this radioactive sand is left on the surface and allowed to dry out, it can blow in the wind and be deposited on vegetation far away, thus entering the food chain, or it can wash into rivers and lakes and contaminate them. The analysis of actinides, for example uranium, in these areas would therefore be of great importance for estimating the risk for all living organisms. On the following map, we can see regions where the uranium extraction industry in Kazakhstan is situated. Various analytical techniques have been successfully applied for determining the uranium and thorium concentrations in different environmental samples. Radiometric techniques such as alpha spectrometry or liquid scintillation counters are widely used at present for measurements of uranium and thorium. But these techniques are often difficult because of the low concentration, tedious sample preparation, and long counting times. Inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, ICP-MS, with its high sensitivity, good accuracy, and precision of isotope ratio measurements, and a relatively simple sample preparation procedure, is arguably one of the most suitable methods for the determination of long-lived radionuclides in environmental samples. At the present, ICP-MS is used for trace elements determination in biological, medical, and environmental samples, high-purity materials and semiconductors, and etc. In particular, for the determination of long-lived radionuclides, ICP-MS offers lower limits of detection than those provided by radiometric techniques.
A study conducted for German Institute of Safety and Radiation Protection in the Environment investigated the content of thorium and uranium and their pathway to the plant collected in the surrounding city of Aktau, and compared the obtained results with the background values. An ICP-QMS was used for the determination of actinides, thorium and uranium, as well as for the isotope ratio measurements of uranium. For over a large part of Kazakhstan's territory, an ecological system has been formed under a continental climate with low humidity and rare rainfall. Due to the latitude differences, there is a gradient from semi-arid forest steppe in the north of Kazakhstan through cold continental semi-deserts and deserts to the warm, moderate continental deserts in the south. Scientists collected samples from areas relatively polluted by uranium, such as uranium mines, the uranium reprocessing factory, and tailings at Kashkarata. For each point, the leaves from 20 individual plants were collected and mixed to form one sample. Additionally, for some points, 3 different parts of the plants, roots, stems, and leaves, were collected, and overall it was 10 samples in the town of Kurchatov and 10 samples in the surrounding city of Aktau. All the samples were transported and stored in polyethylene bags. Regarding the sample preparation, the plant samples were dried and a sample from each sampling point was weighted and digested by microwave digestion before the ICP-MS determination, the inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry. The primary sources of thorium and uranium in different parts of the plant are mostly related to the content of these elements in the soil, air, and surrounding water. Since the plant samples were collected in steppes, which are characterized as a water-poor region, the main influences on plant pollution was considered to be dust, transportation in the air, and from pollution in the soil. Due to the different pollution pathway in nature, it was assumed that the leaves mostly represent pollution from dust, while the element concentration in the roots represents the heavy metals biologically available in soils. To address this assumption, the sampled plants were divided into different parts, leaves, stems, and roots, and analyzed separately with respect to their uranium and thorium contents.
Since the plant samples were collected in steppes, which are characterized as a water-poor region, the main influences on plant pollution was considered to be dust transportation in the air and from pollution of the soil. Due to the different pollution pathways in nature, it was assumed that the leaves mostly represent pollution from dust, while the element concentrations in the roots represent the heavy metals biologically available in soils. To address this assumption, the sample plants were divided into different parts, leaves, stems, and roots, and analyzed separately with respect to their uranium contents. It can be seen that concentration of uranium in the leaves and roots of analyzed plants from the town of Kurchatov were in similar range from 0.038 to 0.104 mg per gram and from 0.046 to 0.135 mg per gram respectively. However, in the stems of the same plant, the concentration of uranium were observed in the range from 0.013 to 0.052 mg per gram, which is about 2 to 3 times lower than in the leaves or roots. Similar tendencies in the variability of the uranium concentration in different parts of the plants collected in areas surrounding the city of Akhtau. Particularly, concentration of uranium in the leaves and roots of plants were found to be in similar range, from 0.465 to 1.209 mg per gram and from 0.674 to 1.954 mg per gram respectively. In the stems, concentration of uranium were more than 10 times lower in the range from 0.033 to 0.107 mg per gram. In addition to the experiment described above, the dependence of uranium concentrations in the plants on the different sampling areas was investigated. First of all, in the town of Kurchatov, the concentrations of uranium were found in range from 0.014 to 0.062 mg per gram. The ratios of uranium obtained for plants collected in Kurchatov were found to be in agreement with these global values from 0.2 to 0.8 to 8. While the uranium contamination of the plants collected in the steppe near Akhtau was found to be in higher ranges than in the relatively unpolluted area Kurchatov from 0.056 to 0.275 mg per gram, the uranium ratios in analyzed plants were found to be in a higher range from 0.38 to 0.69. Based on these results, it can be concluded that contamination with uranium of the flora from the steppe surrounding the city of Akhtau was only insignificantly exceeded. First figure shows the measured concentration of the uranium in plants collected near the uranium reprocessing factory in Akhtau. The concentrations of uranium in the analyzed plants from this area were found to be in a range from 0.114 to 0.305 mg per gram. This is several times higher than was found for plants collected in relatively unpolluted area town of Kurchatov and in the steppe near Akhtau. In comparison with typical values of uranium content in plants, the concentration of uranium obtained in some plants was measured to be several times higher. Based on the results obtained, it can be concluded that the flora from the area surrounding a uranium reprocessing factory in Akhtau was found to be inhomogeneously contaminated by uranium depending on the locality. It's very probable, based on the obtained results, that these elevated uranium values are a consequence of environmental pollution by uranium from the uranium enrichment process. While the second figure shows the concentrations of uranium determined in the plants collected near another radioecologically problematic area of the city of Akhtau, uranium mines number 2, 3, and 5, 4. As was the case with uranium reprocessing factories, the uranium concentrations in analyzed plant samples collected in the surroundings of the uranium mines were found to be in higher ranges in comparison to plant samples collected on relatively unpolluted areas or in steppe near the city of Akhtau. In comparison with the results obtained from plant samples collected near the uranium reprocessing factory, pollution by uranium in plant samples from the surroundings of the uranium mines, except for some hot points, were found to be distributed homogeneously. As can be observed, the pollution of the flora near uranium mines by uranium was generally due to the hot points, which characterized higher concentrations of corresponding element. Summarizing all the results obtained, it can be concluded that investigated flora near uranium mines, in particular Artemisia australisia, was found to be inhomogeneously contaminated by uranium, and that this pollution was dependent on sampling localizations, as was found for the samples collected near the uranium reprocessing factory in the city of Akhtau. An analytical procedure was developed for the determination of uranium concentration in these plants collected in areas surrounding the city of Akhtau and town of Kurchatov in Kazakhstan by ICP QMS. The methods of preparation and measurement of the corresponding samples for investigation of uranium content have proven to be very useful and robust. Due to popularity of growing in this region and the well representation of pollution situation, plants Australsiaca is a good bioindicator for uranium pollution. The comparison of surrounding flora near city of Akhtau that was considered to be relatively polluted by uranium with the unpolluted area town of Kurchatov was performed. The results show that principal contaminated regions near the city of Akhtau are 2 uranium mines and uranium reprocessing factory. In all other investigated regions, the contamination levels of uranium were in a similar range as for the town of Kurchatov. The main influences on pollution of the plants by uranium were considered to be from dust transport in the air. The results also show that the environment near the uranium mines and uranium reprocessing factory in Akhtau is inhomogeneously contaminated by uranium, and that this contamination depends on sampling locality. However, after careful examination of the data obtained, it was concluded that, with the exception of the hot points, the concentrations of the analyzed elements are in agreement with typical values for uranium concentration in plants worldwide.
In conclusion, it is important to point out why exactly does the topic of uranium mining and processing is so vital in the context of Kazakhstan. And in order to understand that, it's good to go over all of the effects that the uranium mining and processing industry has on human population and the environment. Health effects and health risks linked to the industry are typically related to individuals that are occupationally exposed in the industry. for example, miners and workers at the mining sites. However, it can extend via environmental pathways to the general population. Radon decay products pose the greatest risks to human health, such as lung cancer. Kidney diseases are also one of the most common effects of uranium mining and processing on humans. These diseases are linked to the internal exposure that can take place through inhalation, ingestion, or through a cut on the skin. There is also an external exposure. The potential of health effects on the general population increases as the result of extreme events, floods, fires, and earthquakes. Environmental effects such as windblown dust dispersal and leaching of contaminants includes heavy metals and arsenic into the water. Over 500,000 tons of waste rock, over 100,000 tons of mill tailings, 144 tons of solid waste, 1,343 cubic meters of liquid waste. Environmental and health effects have been also highly politicized through its linkage to the population's low income, therefore quality of life. So in the areas where people live and are exposed to a lot of effects from the uranium mining industry, tend to have lower quality of life because of very low income. In 1944-1986, the US extracted 4 million tons of uranium ore from native Navajo territories, which left them with 500 abandoned mines, consecutively resulting in the rates of lung cancer and other diseases rising drastically.